I want to begin this midday power surge session by actually addressing a concern and a question. And that is, Pastor, what about your sources? And that was a comment that was sent in under the last video after sharing a particular email regarding audio verse actually removing all of Conrad Vine's sermon. Let me be clear as it relates to this spiritual war that we are all engaged in. We are told that Moses sent spies over into Canaan. Even Joshua sent spies over there in Jericho. And I believe, as Paul said in Philippians 4 verse 22, that there were saints even in Caesar's house. In this battle, good versus evil, God has allowed me personally to have various sources in high level here at the General Conference of SDA Division Union Local Conferences. I have my sources by God's grace. And sometimes I make statements. Those statements are actually like breadcrumbs to throw off the actual folks who are trying to identify these sources. If you look at the 8th chapter of Joshua, verse 1 through verse 10, you see clearly that spiritual tactic that Joshua used. I believe that there have been reformers, or may I say, Protestants that came before us, folks who were preaching against the public apostasies at every level of the SDA organization. I believe they have never met a movement like this one. And I'm going to say this emphatically. I did receive an information regarding one of the several reasons why apostasies are so prevalent from the General Conference level downward. But because it was stated in these meetings that they're having off record, when it was relayed to me, I chose not to make it public. And of course, I was praying for someone in high level to actually make that statement. And lo and behold, Ganun Diop all of a sudden returned to the public eye. And he made the statement. And by God's grace, I heard it. It's time to present it. I believe you are going to see clearly that we are actually witnessing the rejection of the Bible and the spirit of prophecy, and they're making these statements public. Here we have Ganun Diop actually stating that Popery and Jesuitism have changed. The man actually said Roman Catholic leaders, Popery, Jesuitism, now promote liberty of conscience, religious liberty. In other words, SDAs don't expect persecution. Let me give you one more translation. Not just that there's no Sunday law in the pipeline, as Ted Wilson once said, but Ganun Diop is actually implying that there is no persecution in the pipeline. Well, let me tell you something very clearly. Based on the Bible and the spirit of prophecy, a Sunday law is in the sewage pipeline. Persecution for God's commandment-keeping people is in the sewage pipeline. It's coming. It's closer than many of us believe. Let's get into it. For those of you who are joining us for the first time, this is Midday Power Surge, Safe to Serve Prophesy Again platform. I'm your host, Andrew Henriquez. In Volume 4, page 210, Inspiration writes that Satan's chief work is at the headquarters of our faith. If the heart of the work becomes corrupt, then, my friends, the institutions, the various levels will suffer in consequence. I'm going to actually play this theme over and over again throughout this presentation, which states, when teachers, professors shall sacrifice religious principle to please a worldly amusement-loving class, they should be considered unfaithful to their trust and should be discharged. This is Ganun Diop. He was there in, I believe, in Africa, Nairobi, Kenya, somewhere over there. And he had this panel discussion and also gave a sermon. This will be part one of several presentations. Here's clip one. He will actually state that the PARL, Public Affairs and Religious Liberty, represents every department of the Seventh-day Adventist organization. Name one. PARL represents that department in the public space. Ganun Diop.
Because PAL represents every department of the church in the public place, so that.
Now, don't you forget that, because I'm going to be building on that as we go throughout this lesson. PARL represents every department of the SDA organization. But let him speak. Let him speak. The more they speak is the more they expose their hypocrisy. At this juncture, I'm going to divide this one clip into several small clips because I'm going to eliminate a particular word. Here it is. Now he's going to respond to the protest against the GC leaders actually directly and indirectly promoting Babylon's inoculation. Here it is. Clip one.
We have been at the General Conference accused recently for promoting vaccine.
All right. There it is. For promoting the inoculation. Here's clip two.
We have not promoted that. But the church made a statement at one point, the Department of Health, saying if we look at history, if a missionary goes to a country, it's mandatory.
It's mandatory to receive inoculation. So this means he's equating what they get as they travel as missionaries to what was promoted from March 11, 2020 to May 11, 2023. Now, two more things. Notice what he just said. This man just stated that the GC leaders did not promote the Pestilence 19 elixir. That is a bold-faced lie. I wonder if some men realize that God can smite them, strike them down dead instantly, as he did with Aaron's sons. I wonder if they know that they're playing with God, lying publicly. What says that 9th commandment about bearing false witness and telling lies, exaggerating and withholding information to promote a particular perspective? Notice what he said next. He actually said that there was one department in the whole SDA organization that said we are not going to grant exemptions. And as a result, every single department, church, levels of the organization went along with it. That was the health department. May I ask a question? Who voted that? Because over and over again in this lesson, he's going to promote, we do things based on SDA voting. Who voted for that? Let's move on. So one department forced the whole organization to go in the wrong direction. One department. Ganun Diop.
Okay. And in that context, the health department said that there is nothing, that will prohibit a pastor or a person, Adventist, to be vaccinated.
So this is a health department saying that. May I ask you a question? What happened in Daniel chapter 1? Babylon in the past, ancient, Babylon in the last days. Did Babylon prescribe a particular diet for all the Hebrews? I wonder if they had a health department coming down from Judea down into Babylon. I wonder if the health department actually said, all you Hebrews, go ahead and partake of Babylon's health protocol. I believe that was the case because every other person bowed, from the king, the president of the conference down there in Jerusalem and Judea, the division leader all over Judea, yes, the union, local conference, local pastors, even the people. Only 4 stood. Only 4 said no to it. Said no. Nothing new under the sun. And who did God vindicate? Those who bowed to Babylon, or those who stood for God and rejected Babylon's health protocol in a so-called crisis, a life and death matter? Go read chapter 1 of Daniel, verse 8 through verse 10. Then go down to verse 17. Diop.
Adventists have freedom of conscience to...
All right. Adventists have freedom of conscience to either accept or reject. That's what he said. But the next part of the clip, he's going to say, but the church is not going to defend you if you say no to it. Here he is.
However, that doesn't mean that the church has to stand for the person.
So hold on. So the church, do you realize everything that we have been saying? The cynics, the naysayers, the mockers and scoffers said, you are misinterpreting what Ganun Diop has been saying. Well, he resurfaced, and the man actually repeated everything he has said in the past. I want to ask you a question. Would you allow someone to be your bodyguard who's actually working for the enemy? Let that question sink in. Why would we allow somebody to represent the freedoms and liberties of the whole SDA organization that does not believe in the message of the organization, that actually sides with the enemy? How could you give him the keys to your place, the blueprint of your place, your schedule? Would he not betray you? In this segment, Ganun Diop is actually going to say the Roman Catholic Church now upholds liberty of conscience. Now remember this, my source told me this, but it was not public record. I sat on it for months waiting for the time when a high-level GC official will make that statement publicly. And Ganun Diop resurfaced, and here's what he said. Watch this.
For example, for religious liberty, everybody knows that during the Middle Age, the Catholic Church did not live according to that principle. But to be fair to the Catholic, it changed in 1965, when they have the Second Vatican Council, because they made a declaration for religious liberty. So this is why we cannot slander Catholics just to say, oh no, they are not, they are against. Yeah, historically, because of the Inquisition and so forth, it was terrible, and the Catholics were not a model. But that changed in 1965 with the document Dignitatis Humanae, for example, a beautiful text, by the way, on religious freedom. So in other words, Adventists have to be educated also in what is happening in the world, so that we will not slander people, not knowing their contribution.
So, in other words, several points here. If you actually preach that Roman Catholicism and other allies, apostate Protestants, based on prophecy in the Bible, will persecute God's people and restrict liberty of conscience, religious liberty, then you are a slanderer. Let's break that down. So if you preach Revelation chapter 14, verse 9 and 10, you are a slanderer. If you preach Revelation 13, verse 15 through 17, you are a slanderer. Does that represent a person Does he sound like a person that believes in end-time prophecy? That believes the deadly wound will be healed of popery? I'm asking you a question, friends. Does Revelation 13 say popery received a deadly wound in 1798? Verse 3. Does that say the deadly wound will be healed? When it is healed, she would do what she once did. Revelation 13 verse 7, did she make war with the saints? Globally. Yes. Who are the saints? Revelation 14:12. They keep the commandments of God and the faith of Jesus. Verse 8 of chapter 13. She forced the world to worship on Sunday. But that deadly wound will be healed. Who will heal it? It begins in Protestant America, chapter 13, verse 11, verse 12. Then you can read verse 15 through 17. If you preach that, you're a slanderer. And this man represents every department of the SDA organization. So what would he tell Babylon and the government against quote-unquote slanderers? These are the slanderers. Round them up. They are the extremists. They are the fundamentalists. They are the terrorists. And this is the man who still holds his position, not yet defrocked, not yet disfellowshipped, but the GC leaders have all the might in the world, all the words in the world to censor, marginalize Conrad Vine. Next, Ganun Diop just said, in 1965, the Roman Catholic Church has changed. She put together his words, a beautiful document. This man is admiring the harlot. This man is committing fornication. This man is committing adultery. This man is looking and lusting. Go back and read Matthew chapter 5. If you look and lust, you have committed adultery. This is Ahab and Jezebel marrying before your very eyes. Where is Elijah? Where is Elijah? The popery has changed twice, 3 times the man said that. Hold on now. Does the Bible say popery will change? Chapter 13 and verse 2, popery is likened unto a leopard. Why a leopard? Jeremiah 13 and verse 23, the leopard will not change, cannot change. That means Ganun Diop does not believe in the Bible. Yet you have a man who does not believe in the Seventh-day Adventist historical and understanding of end-time prophecy, guarding the church, representing the church to the world. Fathers, mothers, would you allow a prostitute to represent your home? Would you allow a convicted murderer? Hold on. Would you allow a convicted pedophile to watch over your children? Would you? But here, the GC leaders, Ted Wilson and all the other leaders on that board, they have a man who does not believe in Bible prophecy based on Seventh-day Adventist interpretation, application, representing the church to the world, and they find no problem with that. And the SDA laymen, who I call pimps, prostitutes, because God calls them harlots. You have a whore's forehead. They want to lambaste me. And the so-called professors of theology, pastors of theology in the SDA church, they want to berate me. You are all hirelings. You don't love souls. Come back here. What does Sister White say, Spirit of Prophecy, say about popery and them changing? Sister White says Popery will not change. That means for Ganun Diop to say the Roman Catholic Church has changed on the point of liberty, right? Persecution. This is a public renunciation if he ever believed. This is a public denunciation if he never believed of the spirit of prophecy. And this man is still representing the SDA organization, a man publicly who does not believe in the Bible and the spirit of prophecy. This man. What is the identifying marks of the remnant church? Now watch how they're going to stone me now. If YouTube had that icon active and working, thumbs down, I wonder how many folks would thumbs down this video and unlike the video. What are two principal marks of the remnant church? They keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus. Revelation 12:17, chapter 19, verse 10. So if a leader is now going contrary to Bible and Sister White's writings, Bible and spirit of prophecy, is that man really a remnant believer? No, he's not. What about those who aid and abet him? Those who still retain him in office? They're also guilty and implicit. Implicated. Are they the remnant people? Yeah, they are the remnant of the devil. As John 8, Christ says, you are of your father, the devil. You are not Abraham's children. You are of the children of the harlot. Ganun Diop mentioned, Popery has changed based on the Inquisition of the past. May I ask you a question? What has Popery changed as it relates to the Inquisition? The only thing is to change the name from the Inquisition Board to the Congregation for the Doctrine of the Faith. But the Board of Inquisition is still intact today. Why? Because they are going to resurrect it. And in case you're blind, it's already in play right now. Censoring speech that they despise. Look at Spirit of Prophecy here. Great Controversy, page 571. The Roman Church now presents a fair front to the world, covering with apologies her record of horrible cruelties. She has clothed herself in Christ-like garments, but she is unchanged. That's Spirit of Prophecy. Every principle of the papacy that existed in the past ages exists today. Ganun Diop, Ted Wilson, Mark Finley. The doctrines devised in the darkest ages are still held. Let none deceive themselves. That's Matthew 24, verse 3 and verse 4. Let no man deceive you. You have far more to fear from within than from without. Next paragraph. The papacy that Protestants are now so ready to honor. Let's repeat that and apply it. The papacy that Ganun Diop and SDA GC leaders are now so ready to honor is the same that ruled the world in the days of the Reformation, when men of God stood up at the peril of their lives, the peril of their church position, the peril of their pay and salary, the peril of losing their retirement check, the peril of not being a part of ASI, the peril of not being a part of the GC conference organized body, the peril of being called offshoot, the peril of being censored, the peril of no longer being invited to GYC, the peril of being called extremists. Expose her iniquity. She crushed out human liberty and slew the saints of the Most High. And that is the organization Ganun Diop has said has changed. Next statement. It says, watch carefully, there has been a change, but the change is not in the papacy. It's Protestants who have changed. Because Protestantism has so greatly degenerated since the days of the reformers, now they say Popery has changed. Beloved, a change has come to the SDA organization. It's a change for the worse. I told you, they have never met a movement like this before. Save to serve, prophesy again, humbly by God's grace. Never met one like this. This is the new organization you're seeing here. And many of these hirelings and time servers will want you all to believe the new organization is only, operative word, only the liberals in the SDA leadership, not realizing it's the actual so-called conservatives in leadership position, like Mark Finley, like Ted Wilson, like Ganoon Diop. Hold on right there. Do you know what we need to do now as members because we have the power? You all need to email, call, text, whatever. Ask your local pastor, do you agree with this statement from Ganoon Diop? And if they say yes, you know exactly what to do next. If they say no, then ask them, what have you done publicly? Ask the same questions to your local conference president, the same of your union president. By the way, that's where the power lies, at the union level. Find out who your leader is at the union. Ask your division leader. Who is he? North America? It's G. Alexander Bryant. You go reach out to him. Do you believe this? What is being stated? Call Mark Finley. Call Ted Wilson. That's how you realize what's happening among us. It's time not only to protest. The GC leaders don't care if you protest. Many ministers and ministries have gone on before us. They simply protested, but no reformation was called for. Whenever you present principles of reformation based on Bible and spirit of prophecy that expose them and call them to accountability, now you become a target. Now they want to blacklist you. Now they want to cut you off. We must not simply protest, call for Bible and spirit of prophecy reformatory principles. Why is this man still hired? I don't know. Why are these men, Ted Wilson, Mark Finley, and the board still there as leaders? If they don't believe this, then come public and state it. Because Ganoon Diop made his statement public. Read the statement. I'll come back to it shortly. Let's move on. It's a backsliding church that lessens the distance between herself and the papacy. Now, friends, this makes sense. I'll come back to this. This makes sense now. Why the Vatican flag was flown at the GC session. Now it makes sense. Because what? Rome has changed.
Holy See.
You see, Popery has changed. It all makes sense now. And at the most recent GC session, the yellow and white flag in the background about to come to the fore. Now it makes sense. It makes sense why Neil Wilson would throw out the book Great Controversy. Do you see why now? And his son, Ted Wilson, printed the book The Great Hope and said that is the book The Great Controversy. Didn't say we will be printing an abridged version. No, you said the book Great Controversy. Took out all the controversy about Popery, the protests, and Jesuitism. It makes sense now because they all believed Popery has changed. That was what I was waiting for. The source told me that's what they believe. They told me this. But I didn't have someone in high level to say it publicly. Ganoon Diop has made it known. Now it makes sense. They can discard Sister White's writings at a GC session. Now it makes sense. Now it makes sense when Sister White say in vision she saw this Catholic procession that her books, her goods must be confiscated. They have spoken against our holy order. So what would Ganun Diop call Sister White? A slanderer. You see? What would Ganun Diop call Sister White's writings? Slanderous. Because Sister White not only wrote of Jesuitism and Popery, stripping away people's religious liberty and persecuting, but she said it's coming again. If you say that, Ganun Diop say you are a slanderer. So what would you call Sister White and her writings? Slanderer and slanderous. Yet this man heads the GC, all departments of the GC organization. Let's move on. Carlos said they would have called Christ a slanderer against the church. I'll move on from that. Here's Ganun Diop.
You see, Adventists, we have some of our beliefs is not shared by every Christian, but it is our responsibility to explain, and with kindness, but with clarity, with intelligence, without being angry, because some Adventists, even online, speak in an angry manner, and of course the General Conference is always target. They say, "Oh, Pastor Wilson has shaken the hand of Catholics. Ganun Diop is an ecumenist," and so forth. But those are slanders.
So any SDA that protests against GC leaders of SDA public apostasy, you are now being marked as a slanderer. You are defaming their characters. Exactly what he said. And now he threw out, you're angry on social media online as you're posting and as you're speaking against their public apostasy. Would you agree with me that the word indignation is synonymous to the word anger and being angry? Okay. When Moses descended from the mount with the 2 tables of the 10 commandments and beheld public apostasy among laymen, the people, and leaders, inspiration says he displayed righteous indignation. He was angry. So whoever Diop is speaking to and speaking about, those people are in good company with Moses. Let that sink in. When Christ walked into the temple in John 2 at the beginning of his ministry, the close of his ministry, and began turning over the tables of the money changers, was that indignation? It was righteous indignation. So much so Christ said, the zeal of mine Father's house hath eaten me up. Righteous indignation. That was godly anger without sin. All right? So we're in good company, everybody. Let not these apostates move you with their deception.
Without this diligent and proactive.
Enough of this.
Those are slanders. They even don't understand what is meant. Jesus has an ecumenical mission, meaning that he wants.
Jesus was an ecumenist. Hear what he said.
Those are slanders. They even don't understand what is meant. Jesus has an ecumenical mission, meaning that he wants to gather. What is the difference? It's very simple.
Listen.
This is not complicated, but people who neglect education, start criticizing. It's very simple.
What a blow by Diop. If you criticize the public apostasies of the GC leaders, Diop and Wilson and the rest, then you are uneducated. But hold on. But Diop has rejected Bible and spirit of prophecy. Is he not the one who is uneducated, ignorant?
Very simple. We Seventh-day Adventists, Jesus Christ is our sufficiency. We cannot have another leader. It's simple. We cannot put the church under the umbrella of another organization, ecumenical or so, because we will betray who we are. Adventists vote statements, right? And that is the voice of the church. So we cannot join an ecumenical organization that is led by an Orthodox or a Catholic or whoever.
So that statement was made to soothe your fear. Just relax. Nobody has voted this to join into any ecumenical alliance. May I ask you one question? So who voted for the GC leaders to turn their backs on their own members by stating, we would not impinge on state authority as it related to the pandemic? Who voted that? What does Diop say here? The church can only promote what it officially votes. That's the second bullet point. In the first bullet point, he says, it's prudence for us not to impinge on the realm of state authority. Who voted that? These men are hypocrites. Let's move on. Past that. Move on.
No.
Listen to this.
People ought to know that we can be kind. I can meet a bishop. So what? I mean, even the Pope is just another person for me.
Okay.
You know, I mean, some people, you know, like if you go, you meet the Pope, oh my goodness, you betrayed the church, this is heresy, this is apostasy, this is, I mean, that is so ignorant. You know, we can be, and I remember
That's enough. Gadun Diop just said, the Jesuit Pope is just another person to me. That one statement, along with the others, aforementioned, is telling you this man does not represent the remnant faithful believers. This man has discarded the Bible, end-time prophecy. This man has denounced the spirit of prophecy. For him to say, the Jesuit Pope is just another person to me. Don't publicly protest against me because I went to meet with him and shake his hand and also join in ecumenical alliance with him. Shut up. He's just another person to me. Let's see what the Bible says. What does 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 called the man of sin, called Popery, the man of sin, the son of perdition. Popery, the man of sin, not just another person. Inspiration says, Popery, Jesuitism, is the most dangerous foe to civil and religious liberty. Why are we patronizing Popery? It will lead to compromises and making concessions. Again, I ask, how can you have a person that publicly states he does not believe in the Bible and in the spirit of prophecy represent the SDA organization? And if he still retains his office and not disfellowshipped, who is also implicated? The GC leader, president, and the board of leaders. A day of reckoning is coming to you SDA GC leaders, division leaders, union, and even conference leaders at the local level. Sister White says, watch carefully. The time was when Protestants placed a high value upon the liberty of conscience, which had been so dearly purchased. They taught their children to abhor popery and held that to seek harmony with Rome would be disloyalty to God. But how widely different are the sentiments now expressed. I thought this was the remnant church. I thought it was stated the GC SDA organization is actually the remnant church. That's what they said. Is that and those statements showing principles of the remnant movement? The answer is emphatically no. He's just another person to me. I'm going to stop it right there and come back tomorrow. I have much more to say. So again, Sister White says, when teachers and professors shall sacrifice religious liberty to please a worldly, in the world, worldly, even now, Popery and Jesuits, worldly amusement-loving class, they should be considered unfaithful to their trust and should be discharged, terminated, disfellowshipped. But they have all the might and power to blacklist Conrad Vine. But look at this right here. Look at this right here. Does this man represent you? This man calls the enemy a friend. In other words, don't expect persecution. Nothing in the sewage line. No Sunday law, no persecution from Popery and her allies in the pipeline. Go back to sleep, Seventh-day Adventists. Your interpretation of end-time prophecy is flawed. That's what he's telling you. Come to me, let me reinterpret the end-time prophecies. Lord have mercy. We're in trouble. We're in trouble. I told you, they have never seen a movement like this. They will be sorry and rue the day God gave me breath. By God's grace, I'll see you tomorrow at 12 noon Eastern for Midday Power Surge. The protest, the Reformation continues.